broadcast system. This is not a test.
It's not a test.
This is not a test. Citizens are advised to take the following steps. If exposed, remove clothes. Emergency broadcast system.
Podcast for the curious mind. I don't know what that means.
Broadcasting live from a German-made microphone deep within the multifamily bunker. I am on a special Christmas time special.
It's feeling Christmassy, everybody.
Yeah, it is. Holidays. All right, guys. Calm down. I know you're all excited to see us here. Deven, how you doing today?
I'm doing good.
We have had, I think it was minus 42 yesterday.
Starting off with the weather. I love it. Is that wind chill? Or is that
It's
just like
minus 42. You start off with the weather, you son of a bitch. I don't give a damn. The weather's out here trying to kill me.
it's cold here too. I was surprised.
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, we got a nice big storm coming through. So I hope everyone's staying warm for Christmas. But we got way more important stuff to talk about, like last Sunday's episode in which we discovered viruses aren't real.
I was like, he kind of had me for a while, and then after like all viruses are like even polio and stuff, and I was like, bro, like all viruses? I don't know about that.
I tell you what, that episode was such a mind fuck for me. Like when I was sitting there, I'm sitting there talking to him, and I thought, honestly, and I'll be honest, when you book these guests, you just get a short little bio. You know, you don't get the full thing. And so I saw he had directed and produced a movie. TheViralDelusion.com, if you ever want to watch it. And then, he had worked for the State Department. So I was like, well, either way, this guy's, got to be somewhat interesting. And I'm sure he's just going to talk crap about Fauci and COVID for, an hour and a half, which is easy time, Phil. And we'll just move on to the next guest. And so we're talking to this guy, and I thought he was pretty cool guy. Michael. There's very interesting background and all that stuff. And then halfway through the episode, he just is casually talking, and he just mentioned, oh, and by the way, viruses aren't real. And then this happened to be introduced. And you can watch me on camera when he says it. I'm just I start blinking. My face doesn't change, but my eyes short circuit. I'm like, wait.
It's what happened when fucking Dave said nukes. There's nukes. All nukes are fucking aren't real. I had the same reaction. I was like, what? What did he just say? Like, I texted it to everybody. I was like, motherfucker just said nukes aren't real.
I didn't see that. I wish I had completely. Sometimes I go through these phases. That's why it's nice having you guys on for those interviews, because I'll be doing something else and you'll catch those little things. Yeah. Although it's the same thing with Mike. Like I was re-listening to it and I was like, oh man, I should have asked more into that one.
I mean, blatant statements like that can discredit you. You know what I mean? Even though you might be really onto something, if I try to avoid blatant statements. You'll rarely ever hear me say 100% or all of them, or I'll always put in a little
99%, so that 1% there.
Because it's never all.
Well, and I don't know, Deven. I don't know what to make of it, because obviously the guy's, I don't think he's crazy.
I do know that we all get sick. You know what I'm saying?
Well, he didn't say that.
He said it started by diet and lifestyle, not that it was a virus. So the cold isn't real, right? According to Mike.
So the cold's, I can never remember. Is it
cold's a virus?
Okay, what's like a bacterial sickness?
Strep throat.
Okay, yeah.
Strep is bacterial.
Oh, really? I honestly didn't know.
Yeah. That's why, if you get strep real bad, they'll actually give you antibiotics.
I mean, what an interesting perspective. And so I've been doing research on this because I do the TikTok videos. And so I'm trying to find the people. You okay over there? You gotta readjust.
No, I'm all fucked up. Like, what's happening?
Okay,
I'm not feeling it this morning.
yeah, get it. Yeah, no, there it is. All right. I did like he talked about that Peter Duesberg, right? Do you remember him talking about him about how he tried to go on like a Good Morning America show or something, and they canceled it last
Yeah,
week.
Fauci took his spot.
Fauci took his spot, and I think I found the interview. And check our TikTok out for that Phantom Fact.
That was interesting too. I didn't realize Fauci was that deep into the government stuff from that early. From the 80s. I do know Fauci's old, but I was like, oh fuck, he's been doing that shit for a while.
Well, and this whole thing about, I mean, like the AIDS isn't a virus. I don't know.
That's tough when people died from it. You know what I mean? There's still a guy that lives in an iron lung. Do you know that?
No, I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, you could Google it. He's like one of the oldest or last people, and like he seriously does everything with his mouth. He's totally paralyzed in an iron lung.
Wow.
He's in his 40s, I believe. Maybe 50s.
I don't know. I feel like you go after the medical field and they throw out examples like that. Like, well, we gave you the iron lung, or we do this or we do that, and it's like medicine has been literally amazing. But at the same time, I could see his argument for how it's turned into this fascista type of state. I don't know.
No, I like I said, I can get behind like what he's talking about, because I do believe that medicine is really, like, pharmaceuticals and all that stuff is really, but they're more about treatment than they are curing stuff.
They've been compromised from their morality, I feel like.
Yes.
I feel like that's fair to say.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, how far do you have to go? I mean, like, Fauci, it's very clear he was running tests in Wuhan. I mean, like, not him personally, but he was supplying the funds to run tests in Wuhan, which was out of public media. They were very involved with Twitter. You see these Twitter dumps that are going on right now. I mean, full in, not dictating, but pretty much dictating what could be said, who could say it, what could be said. I mean, like, if we hadn't had Twitter during COVID, people would still believe that the government doesn't silence people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, the same thing was happening on YouTube and stuff too. That's how I knew, like, just some of the people I follow, they're not even like that big of conspiracy theorists. They're just financial dudes, and they were talking about like the ramifications of shutting down everything will have on the economy, and they were getting censored and their videos are getting pulled down. Yeah.
And they were just like economic based. Well, they had nothing to do with medicine.
Yeah.
Well,
and they said the wrong words, they freaking got their shit pulled.
And I get it. Like, Fauci has turned into like this Reynolds gang member where like everything that's ever possibly gone wrong in the area of medicine can be blamed on Dr. Fauci. And I don't want to go down, I don't want to give off that impression, I
think people like to have a solitary or someone they could really point their finger at, instead of it being the whole collective, because that becomes such a macro problem. Like, you're like, the only way you really do fix it is you say, like, you have to have a macro solution, which is revolution or a bunch of people doing things, where if it's just one person, it's easier to go after the one. That's why there's always scapegoats.
Yeah. What do they call them in conspiracy circles? The Nancy? Is it the Nancy that takes the fall? I forget now. Now I'm having a hard time remembering it. But yeah, pretty much when I started seeing how they were treating Fauci, I'm like, well, they're pretty much setting this guy up to take the brunt if anything goes wrong. Like, something goes wrong, everyone can yell at Fauci. He can be, canceled culture, disbarred, whatever, and then we all move on and pretend like nothing else happened and no one else was involved in the whole ordeal. And but I mean, Fauci seems to be pretty comfortable with this role if he's been doing it since AIDS.
Yeah.
He's been doing this stuff since AIDS, going out there on TV. I mean, I don't know. I don't like that tie, and it's interesting too. Like, so I found the video where the guy gives himself a blood transfusion.
Did you really?
Yeah. You want to see it?
Yeah, I do actually, because I was like,
All
"This,
right.
are you kidding?" Like, I'm hearing this story, I'm not seeing it, but I'm like, I was like, "Are they the same blood type?" Because you can fuck yourself up just giving yourself blood that's not right. You know what I mean?
So this was video I found. This is from Dr. Robert Wilner. Injects HIV into himself on TV. Now his argument was that AIDS or HIV does not cause AIDS. The point that everyone is missing that all those original papers Gallows wrote on HIV have been fraudulent. HIV hypothesis was based on those papers. Now that's by Peter Dunsberg. Now I found this Gallo guy they've been talking about.
It's got 2 comments.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, it's barely got
How
any
many views
views.
is that?
And well, and then
751.
and look at the CDC's already up here on the top. Telling everyone to shut up. Which whatever. I guess. They got the right.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a typical butterfly needle set. If somebody has a scissor, it'll help. There, I got it. Okay. It's sterile. And usually we use it to take blood by sticking this in, and then we can inject things also. So
It's sterile, but I'm using raw hands.
do that and let this.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was the 80s.
Yeah. Let me put my glasses on, okay?
Good.
I think you'd rather I do that. I got to tell you a cute little
This guy's
story.
like, oh, what the hell?
Shortly after my son was born many years ago, he's now 40, he got some kind of an infection or whatnot, and I spoke to the pediatrician at the hospital. I was an intern at the time, and he said, go home and give him a shot of penicillin. So I took the syringe and everything home, and my wife held Bruce over her shoulder, and I grabbed his little bottom cheek, and I go like this, and I stuck it right into my thumb. So
Careful.
you can tell I don't like doing this, never have.
Oh,
Okay. We want to get a lot of blood. There we go. Okay. There we go. Now, I'm wiping this needle thoroughly in this blood. And I say to my friends Fauci and Gottlieb and Galpin and Gallo and all the rest of those criminals, all right, that this is for the sake of humanity and no other reason.
I love the way he starts this off here.
Is he wearing a fake
I
finger?
have a certificate in sex education, and I taught for a couple of years at the.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. These aren't like quack doctors doing this. Like, I know we've never heard of them, Devin, but in the 80s, these were the leaders in technology when it came to the science field. Like, I mean, you look at Gallows, he won a Nobel Peace Prize, or not Gallows, Ducey, Duisberg won a Nobel Peace Prize. Duisberg was considered one of the top medical professionals in the United States up until the point he started joining with these guys, and then completely wiped off the face of anything. It's interesting. It's interesting. Could it be like the medical field was like, well, this is so crazy that you can't. I mean, they couldn't take his professorship because he was tenured. So that's the only thing he's left with now is his tenured professorship, whatever that's called. I don't know. I mean, it was just, I don't know, dude. What was your takes on it?
On what? On the whole AIDS thing?
No, just on Mike Wallach and what he was claiming with polio and smallpox and
it made me want to like research more for sure. But I'm like, I was just like, reasoning. I'm like, do people get sick? And I get sick. Like, we all get sick. And you can't just say it's all just diet and lifestyle. I just disagree with that. Like, because I'd be sick all the time. It wouldn't be like every once in a while.
I don't think he claimed that sickness came from. Did he? I re-listened to it, but I guess I don't remember him saying that all sickness came from. I think he was just saying.
I don't know if he said all, but he said a lot is due to lifestyle and diet. And
I mean, that's not a false claim.
Like I got a cold because I'm just saying.
I don't know. It was such a like. I feel
know,
Oh,
I
go
know
ahead.
during Rona, right? Like it was kind of nice not getting the normal sicknesses. Like, cause we're all locked up, we weren't doing shit. But
Right.
like I really wasn't sick for a long time.
Yeah.
Like if you really think about it, like it was actually kind of beautiful. I'm like, wow, this is what it was like.
Well, and like, so his polio argument, and I wanted, after re-listening to it, I was like, man, I wish I would have pushed back a little bit because his,
DDT and all that.
which I get that, and like the fact that it was paralyzing cows, calves, it was paralyzing calves, accepted that it would paralyze calves, but had no effect on humans. Like I can see where, like through the advancement of these chemicals and stuff, it's like whoopsie, didn't mean to paralyze all your kids.
It's just like lead and gasoline, They
But
realized like, oh, we really don't need that component in there.
yes, exactly.
My bad, everybody.
But COVID is not, and the same thing with AIDS. Like both of those instances are not located to a certain type of industrial revolution or, like, and I don't understand how you could get COVID that starts in China, travels everywhere almost instant. I just don't know. I mean, like with polio, I get it. I don't understand how you could get that the mass effects throughout the world just because of, chemicals being sprayed somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean because you'd think it would be very localized and they'd be able
Yes.
to track that shit down because it's like, oh, the farming communities are fucked, but rural areas or up in the mountains where they don't spray it, everybody's fucking fine. Like,
yeah. I don't know. Well, and he seemed very interested in coming back on our show. So, I mean, I think we should have him back just because I think there's definitely going to be follow-up questions. I got so many phone calls about that show.
Really?
I couldn't tell if it was just people were low-key worried I didn't have any co-hosts with me and they thought I'd fired everyone. And the entire show had changed, or if it was they genuinely enjoyed the interview, but I got a lot of phone calls about it. So
yeah.
And I thought it was I don't know, what a cool guest to have on.
His told stories about working in the Middle East and doing surveys, and like his job as for the State Department was to determine like sentiment.
Yes. Yeah.
Just so they know would know how to direct not just policy, but like how do we make this sound good? Stuff like that. I thought that was very Mockingbirdish.
Yeah.
I see it everywhere still. I see Mockingbird everywhere all the time.
It's that's the sad thing about going down these wormholes is like you can't enjoy watching TV anymore or going to movies.
Ignorance is fucking bliss, bro.
Yes.
Like Cypher in fucking Matrix was like fucking on point.
Yes. You do not go back.
I was like, I hate being so woke sometimes. I'm like, can I just go back to fucking being the fat guy that drinks Starbucks every day? It's just like, oh, no, I have $10 in my bank account, everybody.
Yes.
I'm going to stop and get a $7 coffee.
Yes. Just enough.
Shit.
My daily conversation with myself.
Yeah. That's why I think about old people, the older you get, like the older I get, the harder it is to impress me. You know what I mean? Like I am unimpressed by lots of stuff that'll impress my kids. I'm like, meh, it's meh. I might really don't. But then I'll laugh at like some old dick joke. You know what I mean? But for the most part, it's hard to impress me anymore. Like the older I get, I was like, no wonder like they always say grumpy old men and shit. It's like because they've seen something, they're just like, fuck you. I got like 5 years left. I don't really care anymore.
You feel like that old lion in the pride that like he just does not want to fuck with the young cub.
The kid's all pissed off over something, and then the older lion knows that doesn't really matter. Like, stop. What are you doing?
Yes.
You're wasting your time.
Yeah. Well, and like I mean, if like you said with Project Mockingbird, like especially now, like your release to escape is different than when it was when you were 20.
Yeah, when I see news coming out about Ukraine, I know 90%, probably more 95% that has been tainted, and it might not even be a true story. Like the whole, the freaking Ukrainian Air Force guy that was shooting. I'm
Yeah,
like,
the
I
ghost
I
of
don't even,
Kiev.
like
Yeah.
pumped up story to get support.
Well, and
Yeah.
like he came to Congress last week, and like to me, it just felt like it felt like he was the top insurance agent trying to close a deal with one of the biggest, funders. Didn't it feel like that? Like he's, over there, got the energy, bringing the flags, telling everyone how much, meanwhile, every month and a half, we're sending like $40 billion over to Ukraine,
With your continued support, we can
Just-
continue to feed
yes, that's exactly what
Ivana
it
over
is.
there.
Well, and that's the thing. They're gonna they cannot win against Russia.
Now,
They
I'm
cannot
surprised
win
they put up
against
the
Russia.
fight they have, to be honest. I'm like, I thought Russia would just roll over that bitch.
Well, and
They
if
did
Russia
not.
wanted to, if Russia had wanted to, they would have. But I don't think they.
They're
I don't
just
think they have
they're
that
trying to keep
plan.
everything in place, right? Because they don't want to rebuild everything.
Yeah, they just want. Well, they don't even want Ukraine. They just want Donbass and the other region. And
that southern part that
yeah,
touches. Yeah.
those two counties. That's all they want. No, not counties, but like states, I guess.
Yeah.
Those two states. That's all they wanted from the get-go. That's all they wanted. The only reason they went up to Kyiv was because that's where the anti airstrikes were coming from. And so once they bombed all of those and put them out of commission, then there was no need to put a siege on Kyiv. And like the fact that they're just not just randomly carpet bombing. I mean, if you wanted to destroy, Ukraine, you could have. Like, definitely Russia could have. But if you're trying to go in there as a peacekeeping mission, and granted, I'm sure that's not 100% true on the Russian end either. I'm sure, they want sea access and they want to make sure NATO doesn't have sea access over on that side and all that stuff. So they're closing that off to NATO. But, this idea that Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, is thinking that like we're going to push the Russians back into Russia if you just keep giving us money, like it's not going to happen, And like you're also digging yourself a hole because, what happens when are you going to sue for peace and be done with it and just give the two eastern Donbass two eastern regions to Russia and call it good, or are you just going to keep fighting until what? Like when does it end? When does the fighting end?
Yeah, really, it's kind of up to Russia if they're willing to just take it all the way or sue for peace. But we keep delving into it, and then we're going to send like another 90 billion over there or something. I saw.
Yeah,
I'm like, it's crazy how much money they're sending and spending.
So I know Agenda has been following this since the beginning, and the money transfer is being sent over there, and I think it ends up being 40. I think it's like 40 billion, but we keep passing 40 billion to send to Ukraine. And so it sounds like when you hear it on the news, like, oh, we sent 40 billion. Oh, we sent 40 billion. And people, I think, are starting to think like, oh, yeah, I know we sent 40 billion. But no, we're sending 40 billion each time.
Yeah. How many people even live in the Ukraine?
I honestly don't know.
Let's look it up. Let's do some math.
It's math. Well, and I think too that with this money we're sending, and I mean, you definitely understand economics better than I do, but with the huge amount of cash, right? Like, isn't this a way to launder your money, like as the American economy? Like, you're just pretty much. We're not actually building any goods for Ukraine. We're not making any weapons for them. We're selling them all our old technology weapons from the late 80s and 90s that we had in reserve, right?
Yes.
So we're not actually spending money to produce weaponry for Ukraine. And we're also just throwing huge amounts of cash towards them. That
we've
is
spent
getting
$2,050 for every citizen in Ukraine so far.
So pretty much a stimmy check. for the Ukrainians too.
$2,050 for every single person.
How
That's
many?
every single person. So like,
how many people are in Ukraine?
About 44 million. It said 43.8. I just rounded up to 44 and divided it by fucking 90 million or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Or 90 billion. But yeah, that like my house, that'd be a fucking shit, like 12 grand. You know, fuck.
Oh yeah.
More than that.
Well, I just don't. I don't know. It's it's definitely some sort of scam going on over there, and I think the only way this ends is Zelensky's got to die. Like they're gonna have to kill Zelensky off. You mark my words. Zelensky will be dead within the next year.
I'm glad it's over there. You know.
Their problem. Let me see here. I got a couple I wanted to share. Before we do that, let me just play this clip of Peter Duesberg, and we'll move on from the scientific fascism argument. But I thought you might like to see this guy that actually Fauci was so upset to have. That's Dr. Peter Duesberg, professor of molecular and cell biology from the University of California at Berkeley.
Is to be democratic. All voices could be heard for truth. In particular, if we don't have the truth, if a hypothesis is as totally bankrupt as the virus hypothesis that hasn't saved one single life, we are killing 180,000 people with ACT. We are paying an army of 50 to 100,000 scientists who cannot even predict the spread of AIDS. That is the time to say, where's our market economy? Does that make sense? Is the patient getting its dollar's worth of treatment? The answer is clearly no. There is no hypothesis in biology that has been so unproductive, so unable to predict anything as the virus AIDS hypothesis. It is time to stand up and say, to call for alternatives. But it's difficult to do in our country because medical science is now a totalitarian field. It is entirely regulated. The money is entirely distributed from one institution, that's the National Institute of Health. And they have made up their minds before even one paper had been published on the subject in 1984, as we discussed half an hour ago, when Reagan was to be re-elected, and Gallo and Margaret Heckler announced the cause of AIDS had been found before one single study had been published. The papers that have subsequently been published by Gallo were since all shown to be fraudulent, fabricated material.
I see what he's saying. He's saying what we've all kind of known for a while. That you think it's diverse, but there's always a head.
60 minutes rewind.
Oh, God.
All right.
But there's always a head on the snake. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, like.
Yes, yeah. Well, and, I didn't pay attention to the politics that were going on with AIDS. Like, usually when you talk about AIDS, you're talking about the AIDS pandemic. You're not paying attention to the political culture. But when that's important because when you look at how they politicized COVID for election time, like, of course they were going to do the same thing for AIDS, especially if you're running for re-election as Reagan was.
Yeah. I mean, never let a
go
to waste. You know what I'm saying?
NIH discovers the cause of AIDS right before the re-election, or right before Reagan's reelected. Then that's Gallows. Gallows is the co-founder of discovering what caused AIDS, and he was the head of the NIH. So like, I mean, I don't know. It's this problem with government institutions. They've lost a lot of credibility because you can now go back and look at what was going on, 30, 40. I mean, even like, so I got asked by a builder. Yeah. When he found the guys at work told him, big custom home contractor builder, and they're like, Corey runs a conspiracy TikTok, or
yes,
and he got all like, he was like, well, it's not like you talk about Alex Jones or flat Earth, right?
Oh yes, like actually,
No, I denied it. Oh no.
We did have a flat earther on. It's not that I just
Yeah,
don't believe it. Yeah.
Difference. Yeah, there's a difference between letting someone talk and what I actually believe. And I, almost nobody here knows what I believe when it comes to any of this. Like I think it's more interesting just as a brain exercise to like, well, let's go down this 100% if we're going to go down it, and let's tear it apart from that perspective. And then we
know
can
this. You don't trust the government and you don't trust the CIA.
Yes. Yep. That's fair. That is fair. Yeah. I don't trust any authority though, but I've been a victim of abuse of authority. So it's like at the same time,
Well, it's all abused, man. Most people don't realize they just keep their head down in the sand. They don't stick their neck out. And the people who stick their neck out are the ones who get thunked.
Yep. Yes. This is very true. Which is why it's like not much different than Russia, if you ask me. But yeah, no. So this whole time, I think he's been thinking I'm that type of guy. And last week he comes up to me. He's like, "You're the conspiracy guy." And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "My wife sent me something so stupid. She's all into this stuff." And what was the question? It was about how some scientific studies with COVID and stuff. And so I was like, I don't know anything about that. What I do know is we did an episode about the Tuskegee experiment. And so I explained like just the stupid version.
Paraphrase.
Of what it was. I'm like, all right, so back in the 1920s, syphilis killed everyone. And government wanted to know how to contain syphilis because the only thing you could do was give them arsenic. And so they found, I forget how many people it was. It was like 100 people, wasn't it?
They had 100 dudes? Yeah. Like in Alabama for the study?
Yep. Yeah. And
then
I was like, and then the government discovered penicillin.
The cure they cured it.
The cure for syphilis.
They still didn't give it to them.
And then proceeded. Yes. I said, so that's sort of my take on these other, subjects is like, well, it's possible. It's possible, whether you like to believe it or not. He didn't know what to say.
How do you spell Tuskegee? I gotta look that up.
Well, it's just like, and then half the time people are like, well, I'm sure. I mean, like, I'm sure he's, misapplying what actually happened when it comes to the Tuskegee. I'm like, no, read their documents. Listen to the woman interview.
Yeah, that nurse is a cunt, dude. Oh, she was
dragging them out.
Oh yeah, we just love nurses
out of the doctor's offices.
Yep. Don't you dare treat him. Remember that one?
Yes.
Because he was gonna get treated because they're like, "Oh, you have this? We're gonna give you this," and they're like, "No, you're not."
No,
like not what? Like bitch. Fuck.
Same thing with sterilization. Oh, that was my favorite thing about the whole podcast thing is I mentioned sterilization and how the Supreme Court had a right, and he was worried that I had gone too far and decided to check me. It's like, listen, bro, you don't believe in viruses. I'm the one getting fact checked here.
Yeah.
Did you see? Okay. Let's see here. We got a couple new segments that I want to go into. Let me get rid of here. German court. You sent this to me. You remember sending this to me?
A while ago.
Yep. I kept a tab on it. German court rules that men can urinate while standing.
Yes. Oh, I remember this. It was about a landlord, and she has a marble floor in her bathroom, and she claimed that it was damaged by the urine from his splashing. I was like, dude, that's some serious splashing if you're getting it outside the toilet and then it's bubbling out onto the floor. Like he's just got bad aim. You know what I mean?
She wanted $2,200. Claimed the marble floor had been damaged by the urine. The Dusseldorf judge ruled that the man's method was within cultural norms, saying urinating standing up is still common practice.
Could you imagine? Like, and then it was like, no, you have to sit to pee in this house. Like, bitch, I'm gonna piss on the floor on purpose now.
How does pee ruin marble? I didn't think
it is
pee
kind of
would,
acidic. I mean, have you've seen inside like men's bathrooms, like if they have a stall for the urinals, and like you'll look and they're painted, and the bottom half is fucking like eaten away and rusted. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that is true.
It's
But
just
without
like when you
marble,
think about it, you're like, this is nasty, you know. But there's nothing. I mean, I guess bowl the urinal more or something. I don't know.
did you hear about that one guy that created a sticker of a fly and found like the sweet spot in urinals? And so he put those stickers in every urinal, and it's like decreased the amount of cleaning that's had to,
Yeah, because guys are gonna pee on it. It's just like,
and no one
shit
sits
stains in the
down.
bowl. I'm like, I got this cleaned up.
No one sits down with you when you're a kid and explains proper aim and
This is where you need to hit on a urinal.
Yeah, no one tells you that. You're just sort of, it used to be 20 years ago, it was just one big trough.
Yeah. I used to there's still bars in Wyoming that have those troughs, but then they'll have like little bullseyes in the bottom of them, or they'll have like where one there for a while had a picture of like Osama bin Laden, like you could freaking aim for and stuff. One of my favorite things to do when a group of people or whatever we're like out eating or something, I'll go to the bathroom, I come back, I'm like, Deven 1, urinal cake 0. just a idiot fucker. Yeah, it's dumb. It's funny. It's just for me. My wife every time
just brings you little joy. It's just because she's jealous she can't stand up to me. His temple left without monks after they all test positive for meth.
Yes. So I sent you this too, right?
Yes. Yep.
They're freaking good doing meth and dealing. They're not just doing it themselves; they're dealing it too. That's why they get busted.
Where authorities reported record-breaking quantities of synthetic drugs.
Yes, this is in Thailand, right? Yeah.
Yeah, in Thailand. Yep. Yeah.
They were dismissed, and sent to rehab.
They were forced by police to take urine tests.
All of them.
Yeah. Let's see. What do they say here? Without holy men, and raising concern among local worshipers that they wouldn't be able to conduct merit making, that is, donating food to monks as a good deed. That's what. Like your religious leaders all got busted.
Hey, you're gonna have a hard time if you don't drop some food off at the temple. Just saying.
Yes. Yeah. It's like, well, now what do we do? They're all arrested for meth. Yeah, well, I guess it's not like real meth. It's like some sort of synthetic version of it, but it's tomato.
Yeah, but like that just shows like it's a problem down there. Drugs are a problem everywhere, but yeah.
Well, they seized nearly 172 tons of methamphetamine last year in Thailand.
Wow, and more than 1 billion yaba tablets. What's yaba?
Oh,
wait. Meth pills, otherwise known as yaba. Okay.
Oh, that's interesting.
So yaba's just methamphetamine in pill form.
I mean, still better than raping kids. So I guess they still are winning against the Catholics there. So
Catholics still are like, shit.
We should have been doing drugs the whole time, guys.
Well, maybe if you just let your priest marry like they used to back in the day, you fucks.
No. How are the little boys
back in the day? Wow. I was just saying, back in the day, they were allowed to marry. I don't remember when they ended that.
Catholics were? The Catholics
yes,
were?
Pretty sure. Google check.
I think this deserves a Google check because I'm almost positive they were never allowed to marry. I'm trying. That's a 99%. I'm not for sure. I want to bet on that. Now I know, like
Anglo-Saxon England were allowed to marry through the practice, though the practice was stopped after the Norman invasion in 1066.
For the Catholics?
Yeah, the Norman ban on clerical marriage was reinforced in 1139 when the Second Lateran Council declared priestly marriage invalid throughout the entire Catholic Church. So it wasn't always so.
I did not know that. I
mean,
learned
it was
something.
like 1,000 years ago, but you know what I mean? They
Yeah,
used to be
still.
allowed to marry.
Yeah, well, and you know, you wonder, what type of people you draw in that have no desire to be sexually connected to a woman.
There's some people that are asexual in life. There are, but yes,
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
what you're saying.
yes. The far majority are not.
Yeah.
Far majority. Um. Okay, so I found this story from the United States. Now this comes from the United States Justice Department. All right, so this is not some conspiracy. All right, this is from the head of our beautiful State Department. Let me share it with you. Justice Department finds Alaska unnecessarily segregates children with behavioral health disabilities in institutions. Now, upon reading this, what they have found is that hundreds of children, including native children to Alaska, in significant number, have been taken from their homes and shipped as far as Missouri and Texas for quote unquote mental health care.
Took them from their families then.
Took them from their families and have shipped them all across the country. Sometimes people not seeing their kids until they turn 18.
Wow.
This is the third investigation from the State Department involving the unnecessary institutionalization of children with behavioral health disabilities.
See, the behavioral health, that could be interesting because that could just be a kid that's an asshole.
Yes. Yep.
Not really anything mentally wrong with it. What do they think they're doing? They're rehabbing them and their bad behavior?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what they think.
You're incorrigible. I mean, it worked for Babe Ruth,
So, well, here's the thing though, is like, first of all, the parents are not, this is against parents' will, right?
Yes.
So the parents don't want their kids institutionalized. So that's a state decision being made. And then once it's made, you're not allowed to, you no longer have rights to your kid.
That sucks.
And then they ship them to Missouri and Texas from Alaska. And then they can't do anything until they're 18. And then when they're 18, they don't get a ticket back home. So they're just sort of.
Here's your shit that you came with, kid. See you later.
How's it?
Have you read those things like with the Child Protective Services, like lying in court and shit, getting caught? Like when it comes to like taking people's kids and like bad, like what the fuck? I don't get that at all.
Well, it's I have to be careful here because I have some experience in this. So
yeah.
But yeah, I've seen it firsthand. I've seen reports filed and given to judges that were, if not 100% false, sometimes very close to being completely false, as an excuse to remove the kids. In the state of Iowa, it's called the emergency removal order. The DHS person types up the fraudulent claim. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't instances where this has to take place. Right? Obviously, there are instances where there is horrible parenting going on, and the kid is going to die or be mentally stunted for the rest of his life unless someone steps in. But far more than not, that is not the case. It is, you're dealing with people. So I've seen instances where a file, for example, a person called one of the DH workers a fuckhead and told them to leave their premises. And the DHS worker then filed a completely false claim to the judge about the child's well-being, in which the child was removed and then kept from the parents for 6 months because that's all it takes before you can put them up for adoption.
Wow.
So I've seen I've seen a lot of abuse in this instance, which is sad because, like, obviously, like I said, there are kids that, you know, there are kids that do need rescuing from bad people, but more case than not, this is a bureaucracy that has no one to answer to. That's what I loved about Spike Cohen's "You Are the Power," because this is an instance where, like, all this stuff was going on behind closed doors, and if someone had just, bombasted their neighbors, bombasted their friends with what they were actually doing, you have a very different approach taken afterwards, because people are like, "Hey, John, are you actually fucking doing this right now? Are you gonna," you know what I mean? And I think there's some power to that. So kudos to Spike Cohen. Like, he's working on right now a couple in Indiana, where I guess we have to play it, right?
Yeah. Hey, everyone, you can sing along too.
You can sing along too.
Wallach news. Wallach. Kids and Jews, it's Wallach. Wallach news. It's an update, everybody.
Hopefully we'll land. Nice tight fit.
Children's story, so we got to do Molech news, right? I forgot what the button for Spike Cohen was. I
thought you were gonna do the Spike Cohen.
There it is. There it is.
Where in the world is
You Cohen?
Yeah. Good news from youarethepower.net. Spike Cohen. This guy, he's I don't know how he does it. The type of stories he gets, like, God damn it, some of that shit's got to be depressing. But there is a family in Indiana. Have you heard about this one that he's working on right now?
No.
All right, so let me pull this up here. Right now, there's a family in Indiana that their house is zoned. It's zoned for agricultural. They have a bunch of old farm equipment on their property, and the city in Indiana has decided that it is an eyesore and must be removed. They told them to remove it. The family would not do it because they don't have to. It's zoned for farming. They can have whatever the fuck they want on their own land. And so the city went in and scrapped all of their old farm equipment.
Holy shit.
Like over $1.2 million worth of scrap, and kept it.
Who thinks they have all that power to do that?
And kept it. That's why we do the Spike Cohen.
Yeah. So what's going on with it?
Oh, sorry, gotta let it go. Gotta let it run, I guess.
where in the world is
Bazooka Jew Cohen?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Crazy stuff like that's going on, and thank God we have Spike Cohen. YouAreThePower.net.
Anyone why people build Killdozer, and rampage the town. There's some shitty city council member who's got to fucking stick up their ass.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's my authority. I can do it. Can you? Watch this. I can do this too, bitch.
Well, and that's the beauty of the internet and getting a group of people together honestly, YouAreThePower.net are trolls. That's all it is. It's a army of internet trolls
that get you to do the right thing.
I get you to do the right thing.
Take a little pays out of fucking Black Lives Matter. Take a little something out, like, hey, the woke crowd, cancel culture. Like, we're gonna do it, but we're gonna do it for our communities, not just on a national level.
Well, and that's honestly how it should be. That's how it should be. Like, people need to know what's going on with their neighbors. We're so isolated from knowing what's going on in our community.
Yeah, like if I heard that, like, say that happened here in Fort Collins, right? A city official or whatever, they decided to go and take all these people's shit in Fort Collins, and it got out. Like, yeah, I would go to the protest. I would physically go there because it's in my community. Like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
Well, and you would definitely blow up their social media.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, you already do that in instances, but like a lot of that's like half the battles he's won is just been bullying them on social media.
Yeah, and then they're like, oh yeah, we need to change our stance because we're getting lots of hate.
Yeah.
We have like no support. Like Noah's supporting them.
Yeah.
No support.
Well, it's the problem. That's the same thing going on with DHS. Is like, I mean, all of that. I'll give you an example. In the state of Iowa, the Department of Human Services, Department of Homeland, sorry, states. But in most states, especially in Iowa, there's a whole different set of rules in the courtroom for family law. It's not like before your jurors and 12 people and you get to plead your case and fake evidence can be thrown out because it's fake. In family law, every evidence presented to the court is taken in. There cannot be any evidence thrown out because it's fake. So everything's taken in, and then it's the judge's discretion whether he wants to apply it to the case or not.
So it really comes down to the asshole with the fucking gavel.
And the records are sealed. So there's no like transcript. Yes. Yep. So there's no transcript. There's no, public forum where you can see what's being said. And that, you can do pretty much whatever you want if there's going to be no repercussion for it. Yeah. And that's what a lot of these city council members are doing. They think, I'm city council member. We literally just wired a house, one of the crappiest house that I've ever seen built in my life. Like beam shimmed by one buys.
Oh,
yes. Yeah. And the guy that's building it is also the homeowner. And like one of the first days I'm there, he throws out he's a city council member. Wow, you think as a city council member I could move this along? That was like said in passing like that. And I was just like, I just wanted to punch him in his face when he said
I'm like, your house isn't being built to code, right? I'm just telling you right now. It's not.
Yes. It's
gonna fall down on you in your sleep. You're like, I built this. The fucking eagle's gonna fly and take a shit. And it's just gonna be that extra amount of weight that it just collapses on me and he dies.
Well, and that's the thing. Like the people that are city councilmen. Now, of course, I'm talking in generalities, but most of the people that run for city council are those type of people that will tell you they are a city council member with no provocation towards being asked it at all. They're just like, oh, by the way, I'm city council.
It's not even humble bragging. It's just right to your face brag.
Just right to your face. It's like me going around and be like, I'm a podcaster. Do you get paid a lot for it? Doesn't matter.
I'm glad I'm filling up my tank so I can get home and start my podcast. Whoa, what's that?
What? Yeah, I better get this slice of pizza before I do my podcast.
Yeah, got a big day today. Podcast.
I don't know if you guys know it, but the podcast.
Kind of a big deal on the internet.
Just type in Phantom Facts, you'll see me.
Just Google King Beaver Shot. You'll see what's up.
Fuck those guys. Honestly, that's my opinion on it. But I'm not running for city council either, so I don't know.
I've flirted with it, but I've posted way too much crappy trolly shit. Like it would just be like, "Did you post this in 2012?" I'm like, "I did."
That's the thing. Like who in 2012. Facebook clean before. If we ever see your history completely deleted,
have you looked at your memories? I don't try to look every day, but I do look quite a bit just to see what I posted like 10 years ago, and it is the most direct, like terrible, like just one word sentences. Like not even pics or anything cool. It's just like my thought for the day, and I'm like, oh my god, that's terrible. Delete. It happens a lot. You want to play this little game?
Well, man,
my memories today.
I delete my Facebook like every 5 years, and so like
I don't 12 years ago on this day I said I'm at the hizzy. Okay. And then another one. on the same day. Road just opened. I'm outie. Like that's what I posted.
Solid gold coming from you.
Here's another one. I trapped in Newcastle. This totally blows. Never been on a road as bad as one. I guess God just isn't feeling Christmassy. One comment, you know what I mean? I'm sure it was my wife.
It was a comment by.
No, it was some Tabitha Rickett is actually the one who commented on it. It's just bad. You know? 11 years ago, you'd think that since it's Christmas, people would be more cheerful and forgiving mood, but I guess I was a big enough asshole to get my wife mad at me again.
Oh, posted relationship stuff on Facebook.
And then my wife goes, "Nice, you posted on here?" I said, "I love you, babe. Not like I didn't deserve it, though." Laugh out loud. She probably got some sweet jewelry that year.
Yeah. I tell you what, that's rule number 1 is do not post a relationship on Facebook.
I didn't say what it was about. I just said, I was in trouble.
Well, yeah, but that was 11 years ago too. You know better than stuff like that.
Yeah,
now.
but like my memory thing is like that. Like anywhere from like 5 years plus is just ugh.
Do you ever think
how did I have any friends? What a fucking twat.
Do you ever think like 10 years from now you'll say the same thing about your posts today?
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't think so. It's like I wouldn't say I'm more woke now about what I type and what I share, but definitely like I don't post anything to put me in Facebook jail anymore like I used to.
Well, and it's not like emotional based as much anymore.
Right. I feel like actually the podcast has like grounded me more. Like I don't get emotional about stuff like right away. I'll actually debate it and talk without getting heated. I'm like, what's your view? I'll listen to you.
I think the Flat Earth Dave episode broke you.
That's where I was pretty hot up to that point because I'm like, how is this possible? How are we having this guy on? Like, there's no fucking way. But I'm like, you know what? After a little while and learning and reflecting and watching and seeing how other people were treating him, like I was like, it looked bad on them, in my opinion. So I was like, you know what? I am not going to go that route. I am going to be cool as a fucking cucumber and just let him expose his craziness on his own.
The funniest thing about that is like the calls I got this week. People were like, "Oh, that was a great interview. Like I could get behind that interview." Almost every single one of the people that called me followed it by, but I don't know about that flat Earth.
Nah, the Earth isn't flat, everybody. It's round as hell.
and the best part about it is that is our most viewed episode. Like 3,000 views on YouTube, most downloads on our podcast.
Yeah, you just watch it a little bit though. You just watch it a little bit, and you're like, as soon as you said nukes aren't real, it's like, yeah, there you go, bud.
Well, and the nice thing about him is like he had a lot of visual help during the show to, like try to fight for his point. Which, like, I wish every guest was like that we had on that had their own.
Yeah.
Bullet point.
What I love about those two, they use what you can see as proof, but actually when you show them proof that what you can see isn't fit their narrative, that's not real. That's been faked.
Well, and now how he was always like, I don't like to speculate what's outside the ring.
Yeah.
Well, he just released a video this week. Flat Earth Dave did, speculating on what's outside the ring. It's pretty big.
He's monetarily tied to it, man.
Well,
it benefits him to pump it.
I'm not saying I believe
everybody loves controversy. I'm like, you want a TikTok to blow up? You have to post something controversial.
Well,
whether you believe it or not, you
have
to get the arguments in the comment section or people to interact with it. And the only way you're going to get that is if you post some blasphemous shit. Sometimes
that's a Skip Bayless approach, right?
Yeah, people engage with
Skip Bayless and Tim Tebow. Is the belief that Tim Tebow was a great quarterback. Which he was, but
Skip's a total troll. Like when he trolled fucking Shannon Sharp, I thought Sharp was going to choke him. I was like, oh, he's going to punch him. He's going to punch him. Damn, Skip. I mean, he got lots of views for it, though.
Yep. Yeah. And, I don't necessarily want to take that approach where the argument is so stupid that, Oh,
I agree.
Like, I don't think Flat Earth Dave was, I don't think it was stupid. I think the guy put a lot of work into it. He developed a whole system of belief based off of it. I'm interested to hear that system.
He makes a valid argument. It's not enough to convince me because
Yes.
there's too much on the other side.
It's not like we're having someone over here that's like, talking about how racism is okay. Or, I mean, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I reached out to Kanye West. Really surprised he didn't respond to me, but I reached out to him.
He saw one look at your beard and was like, "Bro, no."
I reached out to him, and then the next day he was on Alex Jones. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, obviously you're not going to get Ye. Obviously.
Could you imagine getting Ye? Fuck.
Did you watch?
I wouldn't even know what to ask him. Like, you know what I mean? I'd be scared of what he would say.
Well, he would get. Did you even watch the interview with Alex Jones?
No.
Oh, it's so funny, dude. When Alex Jones comes off looking normal, you have really succeeded in something. It's like he was like, let's see what our friend Netanyahu has to say about this. And he pulled out a Yahoo chocolate milk and a little fishnet. And it was like, I don't know, Ye. It's great. It's great. And then he's like saying, like, when people get mad when I say I love Hitler, and Alex Jones like, well, obviously you don't love Hitler. And he goes, no, I love Hitler.
He did a lot of great things, I'm like, yay, fuck, man. I mean, he did kind of.
He's not wrong. Like,
right, but he did a lot of really bad things.
Well, and the argument he was making on that was that he loves everybody. And I've used this argument on my parents because they're very religious, and they believe that acts are what gets you into paradise. Like your faith, your acts based on your faith gets you into paradise, which takes out the argument of grace.
Like taking a casserole over to a widow.
Or knocking on doors and trying to evangelize your religion to
others. That. Oh, I got you.
That directly affects your bone, your cookie points, your stars on God's table, and so and the Bible's pretty clear that like forgiveness is undeserved, right? So like there's really nothing you can do to get forgiveness. It's grace, right? Undeserved kindness, and so, like, I made the argument to my parents one time after I'd left the church. I was like, well, what would you do if you die and you get to heaven and you see Hitler there? And they're like, well, Hitler would never be in heaven. And I'm like, but that's not you don't know that because there's only one judge, right? There's only one person that judges. Well, his actions prove that he would never be in heaven. I said, what happens, though, if Hitler 100% believed he was doing God's work? Like 100% thought he was doing God's work, was going to get rid of these, horrible people and was going to create a perfect human society. He dies, goes to heaven, goes to God, and God's like, you were off. You were off. Like way off. Right. But your intentions, your heart was in the right place. So I forgive you. And, like, what would you do then? And just short circuited my parents. They didn't know what to say to that, and I'm not like sitting there defending Hitler. I'm just saying, like, we should all love people and leave the judging to someone else. Like, doesn't mean you have to hang out with people or agree with people and their ideologies. But we should always choose love over hate. I think. I don't know. That's the message for the day. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Love everybody.
Love. Oh, you like Richard Gage, Brad Olson, and like May was like, well, what do we do? What do we do? And everyone's got the same response, and I'm right there with them. Is the best thing you can do is just show love to the person closest to you, and hope it pays it forward. And it usually does.
John Lennon. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. He sounded like John Lennon. Isn't that what John Lennon said?
Imagine all the people.
Yeah.
What John Lennon say?
All you need is love.
All you need is love.
Only reason I know that is from Independence Day. The fucking rabbi guy. He's talking to freaking who's that famous actor guy? He's always talking like this, and he's on the fly. And no, the other guy.
Oh,
he's the antagonist.
Oh, and Independence Day.
Yeah.
I know who
Why
you're
can't I
talking
think of his name? Oh my god, people are yelling at us. People are yelling at us.
about.
He plays a great benefactor and like
Sunshine's yelling at us. She would know.
oh fuck. God damn.
But anyway.
What was his name?
But
anyway, in that movie, his dad tells him, he's like, all you need to love. John Lennon. Smart man.
Really was a complete idiot, but you know. He was the yay of that day.
I don't know about that. He was saying to love everybody, not,
Yeah, he was also saying that communism was great. So,
oh wow.
And he married Yoko Ono, and they laid in bed for, like, their view of protest was like, let's stay home and sleep in bed.
He would have bought the billionaire mansion thing, like when COVID was going around. Remember, when there's like, hey, do you want a billionaire lockdown? What was that thing? The all the rich guys were doing. Never have to go outside.
Yeah, Howard Stern. There's a guy that literally does not go outside.
Well, he did, and then when he did, he said he had anxiety about it. He's all fucked up. Like, stop watching CNN, Howie. God damn, bro.
His wife would go out, and he would make her get tested before she came back to home.
That's crazy. He's that scared, huh?
To this day. Like, he's doing it now. Like, when he went to do that interview with, who is the singer? Bruce Springsteen. Remember? That was his latest, biggest interview that he marketed.
Yeah.
And he went in studio for it. Like, no one could be in the studio. There could be no other guests that day. Everyone that had to be there had to have the COVID shot. And then he had like super high. I don't know. I never liked that.
He's tyrannical with that because I refuse to watch any of his stuff because of it. Like, I'm not going to support a guy like this.
Yeah.
Just demanding this, demanding that. Like, fuck you, bro.
Well, I listened to a podcast. What are these podcasts? And they've been goofing on Howard lately, going after him pretty hard. And it's pretty funny to listen to it because they're convinced that Howard Stern is gay. They're positive now because he does an interview. Like, he does all his show is about now is like gay sex acts and stuff like that. And
really?
Yeah. And then so like someone brought this to their attention like a month ago. They're like, I think Howard's gay. Like, got super hot wife, that he can't stand and live in separate areas of their house. And he's always having these guys talk about getting pegged or, doing stuff like this or that with other dudes. And so the theory started there, and then they were goofing on him last week. And he's talking to one gay guy, and he's like, well, what's with all these gay pornos now where guys are like, do you like my pussy? And they're talking about their ass. And WATP's like, there's your proof. Howard's watching gay porn.
Yeah.
You're wondering, I wonder when this trend happened.
Wow.
Howard's gay.
How long have people been cupping the balls? Is this new to me? Like,
yes,
fuck, Howard.
What am I missing on? All right. Well, everyone enjoy their Christmas. Deven, thanks for joining the show for the recap of Scientific Fascism. Killer title, if I may say so myself.
Right. It would be interesting to have him back on too to talk more about it and his journey. Like, I would love to watch that documentary, but I don't know if I want to drop $12 on something. I'm gonna watch it and be like, son of a bitch, I knew he was full of shit,
I mean, 7 hours. I don't think.
Could it be 80% truth, 70% truth, 30%? He's gone down the wrong hole. Like, you know what I'm saying? Some people are wrong. Like, if you follow someone who's wrong because you think they're right, and the next thing you know, you're like, oh shit. Oh. I mean, it happens all the time. To everybody.
It does. Well, it happened with COVID. How wrong were they about that? I don't know. TheViralDelusion.com. I think we should. Watch it because he was nice enough to, he was a very pleasant guest to have on. That's true. I think it would be good to maybe we should do like a thing where we watch it. We all take an episode we watch, right? That way we're not one of us is all stuck to 7 hours, and then we write up our own questions for that episode, and then we have him back on and discuss that.
Cool.
And because I think he definitely wants to come back on the show, and I want to. I was so underprepared for that. Like, I honestly had no clue it was taking that angle, and it didn't really even introduce itself till halfway through the show. the whole virology being pseudoscience.
That still to me is that's just
so weird to
he's got
say.
some proving to do for me for that one. You know what I mean? Like, oh.
Well, and there's a lot of cross references we can do in those videos because he's got a large list of people he's interviewed that are on the same boat as him.
Right.
I believe. So
right.
I'll give it a listen.
Come away from this. I'm like, oh, don't worry about sneezing in my face. It's totally fine. It's not real.
Run up to him. Yeah, cough right here. I'll show you. Evan's over there with AIDS patients. No. It's a butterfly needle. Don't worry.
Yeah. Protection? No.
I raw dog.
Yes.
All right, everyone. Have a good evening.
Bye.